Hello! For a full review of how to use quoting, I actually did 2 live streams, one on October 8th, 2023, and the other one on October 29th, 2023. I covered the plain form, and I also covered how to make quoting forms to say, like, I think. So if you want a full review of plain form and quoting, check out these 2 live streams, as well as just search quoting on my channel. I'm not going to be doing a detailed review of quoting today because I've already taught it, but I am going to do a really quick overview of the basic things you should know before starting in today's lesson. Because today's lesson is not really about quoting, it's about more things you can do with the quoting form that you might not already know. So first is plain form. The plain form is just a plain form. It can be either polite or rude or whatever, depending on how it's used. But on its own, it doesn't have any sort of negative or positive feeling to it. So to make the plain form, which we're going to need for any sort of quote, you just take a verb stem. And if it's an action verb, then you're going to either attach 는다 if it ends in a consonant, or just a nian and 다 if it ends with a vowel. There is also one exception. If the verb stem ends with this letter, you remove it, and then you'll attach this and this. After you remove it, it'll end in a vowel. So like 하다, the verb stem is ha, it ends in a vowel, so you get 한다. And the verb 먹다, to eat, ends with a consonant, 먹는다. The verb 알다, to know, ends in this letter, so you remove it, and then you get 안다. That is all you need for action verbs in the plain form. Descriptive verbs, however, are even easier. Descriptive verbs, you do absolutely nothing. You take the verb and you're done. 바쁘다, to be busy. Well, the plain form is 바쁘다. You're done. Past tense and future tense plain form are also very simple. The past tense, all you do is you conjugate any verb into the past tense as usual. And then once you get to this at the bottom, you just attach 다 and you're done. So 하다, to do, normally would be like 했어요 or something like that. 먹다 would be 먹었어요. Once you get to here, you just do 다, 했다, 먹었다. Every verb is the same for this. Future tense is also very easy. You know how you start with that 겠다 form? Like 하다 is 하겠다, 먹다 is 먹겠다. You just attach 겠다 and there's the future tense plain form. Or if you wanted to use the 것이다 ending, like 할 거예요, well, that's it, you're done. Or if you wanted to do a shortened version of that, all you do is you just attach 다 there, 거다. So like 하다 is 할 거다. There's one more exception though that you need to know, and that's the verbs 있다 and 없다. 있다 is just 있다, 없다 is just 없다 in the plain form. So then, what can we do with the plain form? You might have already learned that you can make quotes with it. You may have learned that you can say, I think, but let's just talk about the base form for quoting. You take the plain form and you directly attach onto that 고, and then you follow that with any verb that expresses what you're doing with that quote, like to say, or we learned also to think, maybe to ask, maybe to yell, anything you want to do with that quote. Now, there are 2 exceptions that you do have to learn with this quoting form, and they're only with these verbs. 이다 and 아니다 have different forms when they're used in this arrangement. Now, normally the plain form of 이다 is 이다, and same with 아니다, but when they're used with 고, they actually change very slightly. 이다 will become 이라고 after a consonant, or simply 라고 after a vowel. And 아니다 becomes 아니라고. Every other verb is the exact same as this. So now we have a quoting form, but what can we do with that? Just for a refresher, here are a few common verbs that you'll see with quoting, like 말하다, like I said. Let's just use the verb 좋아하다, to like. So 좋아하다 in the plain form is 좋아한다 in the present tense. 좋아한다고 말했어요. So 했어요, I said 좋아한다, I like it. 좋아한다고 말했어요. So I said, or someone else said, that they like it. This verb though is most often just left as 하다. So the 말 is understood. 좋아한다고 했어요. So I said, or someone said, that they like it. Or you can say 이야기하다, as in to tell, like to talk about something. This one is commonly pronounced in regular speech as 얘기, 좋아한다고 이야기했어요. Or 좋아한다고 얘기했어요. 듣다, I heard, 좋아한다고 들었어요. I heard someone say, I heard that they like it. 외치다, to shout or to yell. So these are just some common verbs. You probably know all of these, but I do want to introduce one more really common verb that you should also know. This one could get a whole lesson on its own because it actually has a lot of uses. This one basically means to say, like someone said something. But this one is only used in informal, everyday spoken conversation. It's not rude or anything, but it's less proper than just using 말하다. Now, 그러다 conjugates as 그래 or 그래요, or in the past tense, 그랬어요. So this one is used the same way as 말하다. 좋아한다고 그랬어요. I said I like it. Either use 하다 by itself or 그러다. So there are actually a lot of other verbs that we could use with this quoting form, but I don't want to just focus on things you can say or yell or ask or hear or anything like that, because there are completely different things that we can also do with the quoting form that doesn't have to do with any of those verbs about speaking. 믿다 is an action verb. It means to trust or believe. You can also use the quoting form we learned, plain form and cool, with 믿다. Let me give you a quick example. 알아서 is basically like figuring it out on your own. 잘하다 is to do something well, to be good at doing something. 잘할 거예요, right? 거라고 is 거 plus 이라고. In this case, it ends with a vowel, so it's 거라고. 것이다 here is the future tense. So 할 거예요, 할 것이다, basically. 잘할 거라고 믿어요. So I trust or I believe, quote, 알아서 잘할 거라고 믿어요. I trust that you will 잘할 거예요. That you will do a good job. You'll do well. 알아서 잘할 거라고 믿어요. So I trust that they're going to do a good job and figure it out on their own. So I trust that. This is a decent way to translate it in English. I said that. I heard that. I believe that. I trust that. So you can kind of think of the quoting form with 고 and a plain form as kind of meaning like that in that way. So I believe that. I trust that. 일기예보 is weather report. No, this is not a JoJo reference. 맞다 is to be correct, to be right. 저는 I 일기예보가 맞다. So the weather report is correct. 맞을 거예요. 맞을 거라고 믿어요. So I believe or I trust that the weather report will be correct. 저는 일기예보가 맞을 거라고 믿어요. So I trust that the weather report will be correct. I trust that. I have a separate live stream about this form, 의리라고 믿다, which is also used to say I believe or I trust something. And you can check it out from January 26, 2025, if you're interested in learning more about that. But that's a different form. So what about I promise? You can also promise that you will do something, right? So let me just make a simple sentence. 약속할게요. 할게요 is like I'm going to, I am. Just so you know, I'm promising you 다시 again, 오다, to come here. Future tense, 오겠다고 약속할게요. Or you could say 약속했어요. I promised. 다시 오겠다고 약속할게요. So I promise you that I'll come here again. I promise you that. I promise you that I will 오겠다. Come here, 다시, again. 다시 오겠다고 약속할게요. So I promise that I will come here again. There's one more way you can also use 약속하다 with a different form, and that is with the form 기로. 기로 is when you're deciding to do something. So it's used with verbs like decided to do, like I decided to go, I decided to eat, I made up my mind to, but it can also be used with the verb 약속하다, and you can say that you promised to do something. Like, for example, I promised to eat pizza, or I promised to go somewhere. 가기로 약속하다, to promise to go, or to promise to do. 하다, 하기로 약속했어요. But this one has the meaning of like to. I promised to do something. Whereas the quoting version has the nuance of I promised that. Now, I also have a separate live stream about this form from September 6, 2020. I talked about the 기도 form as well as several verbs it's used with. So if you want to learn more about this form to do something like deciding, check out that live stream. The next verb I wanted to talk about is 부르다, and that's to call. You can call them your older brother, calling someone anything or calling something something. And this is also used with the quoting form. So you take a noun, and then because you're talking about calling something or calling someone, you're saying that someone is something. So you're going to use this with the verb 이다, which means that here you're going to use 이라고. So noun 이라고 부르다 is to call something or someone, whatever. 형이라고 부를게요. So 부르다 is to call. So 형, older brother, 형이라고 부를게요. So I will call, in this case, I'll call you my older brother. 형이라고 부를게요. I'm going to call you my older brother. 사람들은, so people, that 원숭이, that monkey, 왕자 is a prince. 왕자라고 불러요. So they call that monkey 왕자. So people call that monkey prince. 사람들은 저 원숭이를 왕자라고 불러요. Hey, that monkey over there, you see that monkey? People call that monkey prince. It's their nickname. 사람들은 저 원숭이를 왕자라고 불러요. So we've used quoting now to say things like to promise or to believe, but you can also do it for tons of other verbs. And these are just some of the most common ones. 예상하다, to expect or to forecast. So like I was expecting as in predicting. 상상하다, to imagine. So imagine that. 경고하다, to warn, to give someone a warning that. 기대하다, to look forward to or to expect something. Yeah, I was looking forward to. I was expecting that would happen. 판단하다, to judge that. They judged that. It should happen. 설명하다, to explain that. 요청하다, to request. I requested that they don't do that next time. 발표를 하다, to announce something. Or 주장하다, to claim that. So there are many more of these, but these are just some of the most common. But I also wanted to give you a few example sentences using some of these. 지구에 혼자 남았다고 상상해 보세요. 지구 is the earth, 혼자 is alone, by yourself. 남다 is to be left. So 남았다고, past tense. You were left alone on earth. That 상상하다 is to imagine. So imagine, 상상해 보세요. Try imagining that you were left alone on the earth. So try imagine you were left alone on the earth. 지구에 혼자 남았다고 상상해 보세요. 수술 is surgery, 없이 is without. So 수술 없이는 without surgery, 불가능하다 is impossible. 불가능하다고, so that it is impossible without surgery. 설명하다 is to explain. 설명해 드리다, to explain to someone else. So I explained. 설명해 드렸어요. That it's impossible, 불가능하다, without surgery. 수술 없이는 불가능하다고 설명해 드렸어요. So I explained to them that it's impossible, what they want to do. It's impossible without surgery. 이건, so this thing, this is 누구의 잘못, someone's 잘못, someone's mistake. 또 아니다, it is not someone's mistake. 라고 판단하다 is to judge. So 판단했어요. They judged that 누구의 잘못도 아니다. This is no one's mistake. Notice that it's 아니다 and not 아니라고. You could say 누구의 잘못도 아니라고 판단했어요. They judged that it is no one's mistake. But what you're saying by saying 아니다 and then adding 이라고, or in this case 라고 because it ends in a vowel, what you're saying here is actually the literal quote of 누구의 잘못도 아니다. That's what they actually said. So you can also use these forms to make a literal direct quote. 이건 누구의 잘못도 아니다 라고 판단했어요. So they judged that it is no one's fault. 조금 전에, a little while ago, 바다에서, from the ocean or in the ocean, 새롭다, to be new, 새로운, so a new as an adjective, 생명체, life form. 생명체. So a new life form. 발견하다 is to discover. 발견했다고. So that they discovered a new life form in the ocean a little while ago. 발표했어요. So they announced that they discovered a new form of life in the ocean just a little while ago. 조금 전에 바다에서 새로운 생명체를 발견했다고 발표했어요. Okay, that is the lesson, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.